Being afraid of giving birth, labor, or just birth in general is so incredibly common. Most of the moms that I work with have some type of fear regarding childbirth, whether that is the pain of contractions, tearing during birth, or just something going wrong and unplanned. If you haven't given birth before, a lot of these fears can be based in just the unknown. And if you have given birth before, a lot of fears can be based around something that went wrong in past births, or something that you didn't want to happen, or even birth trauma. When I was pregnant, I even felt bombarded by a ton of people's negative birth stories, things that went wrong for them, and all it did was create a lot more fear and anxiety surrounding my own birth. While all of these fears are so valid, it is essential to understand that you do not have to be afraid or anxious while giving birth, and if you are, this fear can actually hinder the natural process of birth. Instead, we can replace this fear and anxiety with confidence and trust in your body's natural ability to birth. I'm a strong believer that the more that you know, the less scared you will be, which is why I am so passionate in my role as a birth educator to help instill confidence and to empower moms just like you. My name is Caitlyn Stone. I am a certified childbirth educator as well as a birth doula, and in this video I'm going to share with you my tools for overcoming fear and anxiety in childbirth, and instead replacing those emotions with confidence and trust so that way you can have a positive and beautiful birth. So I believe that the first step in overcoming your fear of childbirth is to acknowledge your fears. Where are they and what are they coming from? So what I want you to do is actually write down your fears. So you can write these either on a piece of paper with a pen, or even just the notes of your phone is totally fine. But I want us to actually write down these fears so that way we can really fully address them and move on from them. As you're writing down these fears, it'll actually go into my second step, which is to get specific about them. Okay. So for example, if you are afraid of having a C-section, what about a C-section scares you? Is it the actual surgery? Is it the recovery? Maybe you're planning for a home birth and just being transferred to the hospital is something that's scary for you. Is it the birth environment then that you'll be in? You know, get specific. If it's an induction, what about the induction that's scary to you? Is it the methods of inducing? Is it potentially how long the labor can be? So I just really want you to get as specific as you can. That way we can really address each one of these individual fears. As you are writing these down and you've been specific with them, I want you to learn as much as you can about these fears. So like I said, the more that you know, the less there is to be afraid of. So again, let's go back to that C-section example. If it's the actual surgery that you're afraid of, if you are okay with it, maybe watch a C-section video. That way you know exactly what to expect with it, and then learn all about it. So be educated on every single one of your options here, and know that you can still make decisions even on the things that you are scared of, and we can still prepare for everything that is going to come with these fears, and we can just have more knowledge on them. If you're afraid of tearing during birth, if you feel comfortable with it, look up tears and what they look like so you know what to expect, and then we can learn all about them. So learn about the different degrees of tearing. After we have written down everything that we've learned about each individual fear, what I want us to do next is actually prepare for these fears. So as you're making your birth plan, a lot of times it's fun to have just plan A, which is essentially everything going to your dream birth, exactly what you want it to look like. But I want us to actually have other plans in place too, because something that I always tell my clients is that while birth is a completely normal and natural process, it can be unpredictable. So when we prepare for these unwanted circumstances or for your fears, we can actually feel a lot better mentally going into it. And what a lot of birth is mental. We have to make sure that we are in the right state of mind in labor and during the entire process. That way our bodies can again not be hindered by our fear, but actually just do their thing and give birth in a physiological way. So some examples when it comes to being prepared for birth is with that C-section. So let's say you are most scared of a C-section, you have learned all about how to avoid C-sections, because I believe that this is important when it comes to planning as well. But once we've learned everything there is about it, let's start preparing for it. So if you have to have a C-section, you have options in the things that you can do in your plans for a C-section. So whether that is that you don't want a drape or you want a clear drape during the actual process, you can have baby still put on your chest immediately after a cesarean for skin to skin. All of the weighing, everything else can wait, and you are more than able to have just skin to skin here. You can also request to breastfeed immediately after a C-section. You can even ask for a natural cesarean, so I would encourage you to look up what that entails, and a lot of providers might not actually know what a natural cesarean is. So once you look this up, you can really inform them and have conversations with them ahead of time, and then remind while you are going in to have your cesarean. But even better scenario would be to have your birth partner or a doula be there to advocate for you and your wishes. That way you're not actually having to be the one having these conversations with the providers at the time. So knowing and being prepared for all of this can again make such a huge difference when it comes to the way that you are feeling when you're going into birth. And going back to learning all about how to avoid your fears, again with that cesarean example, the reason why this is important is so that way hopefully you can know if a cesarean was medically necessary, that you feel confident that you did everything that you could to avoid it, and in the end it was something that you felt confident that needed to happen for the safety of you and your baby. Another example of a situation to prepare for could be induction. So again, knowing and researching what is actually needed for an induction. So if you feel comfortable maybe going past your due date, if your water has broken and you haven't started the labor yet, you can research all of these things, and you have time, mama. If it happens and your doctor is wanting you to be induced, a lot of the time it's not a true emergency, and you should have some time to think about it, discuss it with your birth partner, go over researching all of these specific topics. You know, you do have power in being able to research these things. Knowledge is also power, and that is something that is so important when it comes to your birth. That way you're able to make informed decisions, and you can feel confident going into each one of these situations. So again, the more that you learn and the more that you research, you'll know how to go into all of these, you'll know what to expect, and hopefully that'll be eliminating your fear in the process of them. So again, don't only plan for your plan A, but plan for plan B, C, and D. You know, every single one of these situations that you feel afraid of or you just don't want to happen in general, get specific and plan, so even in those unwanted situations, you still can have a beautiful and amazing birth in the way that you want it to happen. And the next thing that you can do is pick a supportive birth team. So choose a practitioner who supports physiologic birth and someone that you feel comfortable and safe with. So whether that is an OB or a midwife, it's totally up to you. You can set your environment, you can set your team, so just where you're giving birth, who you're giving birth with, whether that is family members, your birth partner, whoever you want to be there that makes you feel safe and comfortable. When we have confidence with all the people who are surrounding us while we're giving birth, it can make all the difference in the world. Just having that support and comfortability and trust in the people around you can then help you be in your right state of mind and just focus on trusting the process. So who your practitioner is, whether or not you choose to hire a doula, and making sure your birth partner is educated, or whoever is going to be in the room with you is educated as well, again, can make all the difference in your experience of eliminating fear and anxiety, and instead just surrounding yourself with love, support, and confidence in the people around you. And my last tip here is to listen to positive birth stories of all kinds. So again, when we're thinking about preparing for birth, because it can be unpredictable. I want you to be prepared as possible. So that doesn't mean only listening to the types of birth stories that you plan to have, but also listening to positive types of birth stories that you don't plan to have. So maybe this is positive cesareans, positive inductions, positive home birth to hospital transfers, whatever it is that you are scared of, listen to the birth stories about it. And this can make you feel better and know, again, reconfirm that your body is meant to birth and that you can do this. So things that just instill confidence instead of fear in you are so important. You can listen to all kinds of podcasts, you can read books, and I'll leave a list in the description of this video of different podcasts and books that I recommend for you to read, because again, I think this is the third time I'm saying this, but like I said, it is so true, is that the more you know, the less scared and anxious that you will be. So every mom can be so incredibly different when it comes to what makes them feel comfortable and safe in birth, so that way they can get rid of the fear and anxiety that they're feeling. See where you're at mentally, and then learn about and find what works for you. And it is possible, and it is so encouraged to build that trust with your body and with your baby. Your body is smart, your baby is smart, and I promise they know what to do when it comes to birth. So just to recap, my tools for overcoming fear and anxiety in birth are to acknowledge and address your fears and get specific with them, so that way you can plan and prepare if those fears end up coming up in your birth. Choose a supportive birth team and listen to positive birth stories of all kinds. Make sure to check out my free resources that I have in the description below this video, as well as my recommendations for educational materials to read and to listen to, so that way you can start eliminating and overcoming that fear and anxiety, because mama, you are meant to birth and you can do this. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.